The Voices Unheard program at Boston Post Adoption Resources is designed to empower adult adoptees in expressing their personal stories and to expand public knowledge and awareness around lived adoptee experiences. Program goals are accomplished through adoptee-centered writing workshops, adoptee-created blogs and other online material, use of Voices Unheard, a reflective journal for adult adoptees, and Voices Unheard Real Adoptee Stories, which is our annual live speakers forum designed to educate the greater Boston community through creative expression and storytelling. Welcome to Adoptees in 3, Connecting Mind, Heart, and Action, where we get to the heart of things with one adoptee by asking them the current state of their adoptee journey. I'm Alisha Coppola, an adoptee, and I'm the program director of Voices Unheard, and I'm happy to have Alisha here with me today. Hi, Alisha.
Hi, Elsie. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. Alisha Bennett, she, her, aka Son Young, is a Korean adoptee with citizenship. With a heart dedicated to children, she's worked as a school social worker in New York City public schools for 17 years. She is also the clinical director of a growing private practice in New York City. She lives in love and gratitude in Brooklyn with her partner, Dave, and their 3-year-old daughter. Her journey into motherhood as an adoptee has profoundly influenced her and has become a central theme in her writing and storytelling endeavors. She will be sharing aspects of this part of her life at this year's Korean American Stories Roar, ROAR, all caps, Story Slam in Washington, D.C. at the end of April. And I first met Alisha when you submitted your beautiful piece about motherhood as an adoptee to our Voices Unheard event, and then you spoke at it and you made everyone cry like within like 2 minutes. So
Always here for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was such a good piece though. I
Thank
mean,
you. That's very nice of you to say.
I've heard a lot of you know, clients and also just people that were at the event like specifically commenting on that piece,
Oh.
and just how they so many things about not realizing that as adoptees we don't get the stories of the beginnings of our lives,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which was a theme in your was
Mm-hmm.
was what your essay was about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how much of, for me, like it feels like such a privilege to have had that with my daughter. And I think it's, if as non-adoptees, I think it's like something probably, I'm just guessing, right? Non-adoptees aren't as conscious of. Um, so yeah, it's been a journey becoming a mother.
Yes, adoptee mothers.
Yes.
Is there a support group for that? There should
I
be.
know. There should be. There should be.
I think
Eh,
BPAR might be, Boston Post Adoption Resources might be starting a support group for that soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say BPAR sounds like a great place for that to start.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to jump into these questions because we kind of want to keep these interviews, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. So the first question is, if you were to make a movie about your adoptee journey, what would you title the movie and why?
Hmm. And why? That's always the harder part, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think if I were to title a movie about my journey, it would be something along the lines of love, no, sorry, loss,
Hmm.
love, and liberation.
Loss, love, and liberation. Nice.
Which kind of goes along with the theme that I'm of the story I'm telling in at the end of the month. But when I think about my journey, right, as many adoptees, right, our life starts with loss. Um, and then I think as we grow up and as we come into adulthood, a central theme in our life is love, finding love, whether that's with family, whether that's with friends, romantic partners, children.
Mhm.
And I feel like the liberation part is kind of where I'm at right now. Work in progress. Um, Trying to really like liberate myself from the pain, the loss, the grief, the envy that I hold for my daughter. Um,
Hmm. Is that what the
all
piece
the,
is about? The
yeah.
end bit? Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've heard that. I think we've talked a little bit about that.
Yes, we've
But that
talked a
is
little bit about it. I needed
not
some validation. I needed some validation from LC.
yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I'm not a mother, but I'm already jealous of a child that I'd never will have,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I can
yeah,
totally imagine.
yeah. No, I remember being in Korea for the first time when I went back in 2017, and I was like sitting in one of those like food courts at the mall and just watching mothers with their little kids with them, like a Korean mother with a Korean baby. Um, that it brought up a lot for me, to the point where I was like having a panic attack by the end of lunch.
Yeah.
Um, just because it's yeah, I'm like, God, what would that have been like?
Yeah, to have a
Um,
mirror and
mhm, mhm,
yeah, like,
yeah. So yeah, I think that would be the name, maybe the name of the movie, something like that. Yeah,
all right, the three L's,
the three L's.
loss, love, and liberation. It kind of reminds me a bit of like the adoptee consciousness model, like
Hmm.
the loss and I don't know, the love and the I guess it's the liberation piece that, coming out of the fog or coming in out of
Hmm. Yeah,
consciousness
yeah, totally.
and getting to that point.
Yeah. And I think it's like it's this progression of like, right, we come out of the fog, we come into consciousness, and then it's like, then I feel like, at least for me, that's when I like, since coming out of or into consciousness, that's when I've really been able to be like, okay, here are actually all of the places in which I recognize I need healing. Um, and like thinking about the pain and the anger towards, the systems and the um, my adoptive family and my birth mom and, her sister, the one that relinquished me. Like there's so many things to be angry at. And it's like I want to hold space for that, but also I don't want to live
Yeah.
in that space.
Yeah, it's anger's interesting. I feel like it's so important. There's been times in my life where I need the anger to protect
Mm-hmm.
me, to move me along,
Mm-hmm.
to change things. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think it becomes really dangerous when it becomes like resentment. Like that seems like a
Yep.
different thing.
Yep. Yep.
But it is such a crucial tool, anger. Like
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's moving, moving
Right.
to something
Right.
and sitting and
And not
set.
causing harm. Yeah. Like not, yeah, not sitting and causing harm. Because, I'm acting out in ways that off of that anger that I'm not dealing with or processing or, yeah, just releasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll jump into the second question here, which was if you could give a message to a
Mm.
younger version of yourself, any age that really needed to.
Any age.
Hmm.
Hmm. I feel like if I were to pick an age, it would be like my early 20s or like maybe like college into grad school. When like everything's great. um, yeah, I mean, oh, so many things. One, get on Lexapro.
Ooh,
Two, while also going to therapy. I didn't start going to therapy until I think I was like 27. And because I went to social work school, like right out of college, I was like, I don't need to go to therapy. I'm in social work school. Um, so yeah, I think I wish I would have started going to therapy earlier and
Yeah.
just for my own self-awareness. Um,
Can I ask, and
yeah.
you don't have to answer, but I'll ask anyway. When you went to therapy, like when you started going,
Hmm.
was it for, did you understand any of this adoption stuff? No.
No, it's so funny that you asked that too, because I think about this all the time. Um, I went for, like there's always the reason, right, that gets us there. Um, I went because, like I was sexually active, like young 20-something-year-old or mid to late 20-something-year-old. Um, and knew I was like seeking out some sort of like more stable relationship and like could not access it.
Yep.
Um, and I remember like early on, my therapist, like after a while and we got to know each other, she would like start attributing things to my adoption or to being adopted. And I remember like very often being like, no, that's nothing to do with it. I'm like, I'm so aware of my experience as an adoptee, and like I openly talk about it and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I can laugh about it now because of the amount of times that I was in complete denial about it.
Yeah.
And now, right, like 10, 12 years later, I'm like, everything is yes about
Mhm.
my adoption and birth trauma and adoptive family trauma. But yeah, there's so much from that initial separation and loss um, that, yeah, I was just completely like, no. I wish I would have went to therapy earlier. I wish I would have started medication earlier because when I look back on how active my nervous system was and how I was constantly living in a state of like anxiety, yesing, people pleasing.
Mm.
Um, it was like a little unbearable. Like if I think about it sort of like pre and post, like I remember when like the Lexapro like fully set in and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like the amount of work I was doing daily to manage my anxiety that was under control,
Mhm.
um, like on another level.
Yeah. It's amazing when that happens. And
Yeah. Um, I also think I would have found community sooner. I wish I would have found community sooner. I would tell my younger self to find community sooner, adoptee community. Um, I didn't really intentionally start putting myself in adoptee spaces until the last year. Um, I feel like I've been on my own sort of like individual journey. But yeah, the intention of being in those spaces is really recent.
and
And
are
now
you,
I'm like
yeah,
all in.
now you're in.
Now I'm in. Um, yeah. And then I think just like personally, I think I would tell myself, and I know, of course, right, it's always easier said than done, especially when you're talking to your past self, but um, I think I would tell myself to show up for myself more, um, to not people please as much, to show myself more self-love and self-compassion. Um, yeah.
Kind of leads nicely into the third question, which is how are you healing today?
Mm.
I mean, if we're talking self-compassion, for example, do you have any tips on how to give yourself that or
I think at the point where I am now, I am much more conscious and aware of letting myself feel whatever I'm feeling when I feel it. Um, because like not only was there like, right, like my adoption trauma that we like all share, right, of losing our first family. um I grew up in a, Midwestern family where, right, the only emotions that were really expressed were anger or anger,
Mm,
um, or just complete, right, passivity.
mhm.
Um, it was not an emotionally responsive household. Um, and so I, like, very early on learned to shut down
Mm.
any emotion that wasn't good or happy or um, positive. I remember I was having a conversation with my adopted mother when I was like 20 something, um, about a guy that I was dating. And like we were going through something, and I was like upset. And she's like, you can choose how you feel.
Shut it down.
And I was like, I don't think that's true. But that was sort of, the messaging. It's like, um, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Like, we're great. Everything's great. We don't talk about anything. Like, right. Like, we're, you know,
Yeah.
um, so
And like the
I think
gen
this self-compassion, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say like the generational traits, because now we know it's not just trauma, but it's also personality type. I mean, there's so many traits that are passed down. So it's like if
Mm-hmm.
you were a feeler or reflector as like in your blood, having
Mm-hmm.
to shut that down is just like another way that like you
Mm.
started off inauthentically because you're not attuning, because you're not related, you know?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I think a big part of the self-compassion for me now is like, it's just like, it's like, and I've done a lot of work um, around this, but it's just like allowing myself to feel what I feel when I need to. And if there's a day where I want to lay on the couch and cry for a couple hours, like I'm just going to do that because we have a lot to grieve. Um, and I don't think it ebbs and flows, and day to day, I'm generally like pretty, feeling pretty good and like getting through the day, but it hits us at various times. Like my birthday just shut down.
Yeah,
Like
that's a tough one.
could not. It actually hit me this year, the day after my birthday. I couldn't get, I was like, I just laid on the couch for hours. Um,
Was it like that throughout childhood that it impacted you?
no, I always felt off. Like there was
Yeah.
always something that felt off on my birthday. But when you're a kid, it's like it's your birthday and and I have a summer birthday, so it's like, you're gonna have your friends over and you're gonna go in the pool and it's more, but I like can vividly remember something always feeling off on my birthday. And then I did something funny sort of in my 20s where I like just ended up always finding a way to get out of New York City whenever it was my birthday. Like I never wanted to be here, which is where I've lived since 2006. Um, yeah, I would always just manage to find a way to like
Mm.
be away with not with a lot of people. And then I would say as I got more into my 30s, I started to get extremely anxious for like the entire month of July, and my birthday's at the end of the month. So, um, yeah, it's never been. I don't like my birthday, um, really at all. Yeah, it's not my favorite day of the
It's
year.
a tough one. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, this is the one day I'm pretty sure that my birth mother's definitely thinking about me, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think it gets harder when we're older and, more into consciousness and,
Yeah, yeah. Now it just feels like a day of mourning, kind of to
Mhm.
me. Um, which is hard too because I try to, since having Coco, my daughter, it feels even though this year was particularly hard. There's this sort of like added component of like, well, if I didn't have a birthday, I wouldn't have her. Like there's this like kind of, I don't know,
Mm.
it's
Interesting.
conflicting
Yeah.
emotions of like sadness and grief and all those things, and then also like, oh, but I have this incredible little human that I love like so much. So I'm trying, I don't know, trying to flip the
Mm-hmm.
script a little, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, back to your original question. Yeah, just trying to like, I don't know,
Yeah.
give myself that space more.
Yeah. I find that even I have to ask myself sometimes, like, how am I feeling? Because I'm so like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling how you're feeling as my autopilot. And then
Mm-hmm.
I have to remember that I am separate
Mm-hmm.
from the
Mm-hmm.
other person,
Mm-hmm.
like, um, yeah, or how I assume you're feeling because of
Mm-hmm.
hypervigilance and
Mm-hmm.
monitoring and all the
Mm-hmm.
things I think a lot of adoptees
Yeah,
struggle
totally.
with.
Yeah. I think the other thing I do that I just thought of as you were talking around the self-compassion thing is boundary setting.
Oh yeah, that's
Like
so important.
huge. And that's something I feel extremely comfortable with at this point in my life, that like I used to fumble over words. Um, like even like just getting words out if
Mhm.
it resembled anything that was like drawing a line. But like at work or interpersonally, um, sexually, um, yeah. But that's another area of self-compassion that I feel like I've really feel really good about that.
Another topic that sounded so boring, like in college, like it's all about boundaries. Ugh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm all
Mm-hmm.
like, it's all about boundaries.
It's
It's
all
like
about
the best
boundaries.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to have, how can people who are watching this find you? Can
Mm.
they look up your practice?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way
Yeah.
anything you want to put?
Um, yeah, so the practice name is Integrative Therapy NYC. That's the website domain too. It's kind of long, but it's integrativetherapynyc.com. Right now, it's me and two other therapists. One of the therapists is also a Korean adoptee. Um, yeah, I think we're also on Instagram. That's relatively new. Same thing though. Don't It's just at Integrative Therapy NYC. Um, yeah, and then my personal account is, which I'm like here and there with that. Sometimes I'm very active, and other times I'll barely be on for a week or so. Um, is at Tudgy, only on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook or X or TikTok.
That's
Uh,
probably very good for you.
yeah, I'm trying to stick to just one. Um, but yeah, I
So
share some personal adoptee things on my personal IG account. Um,
cool.
yeah,
All right. Well, it was really good catching up with you,
you
and
too. It's
thank you
always
so
good to
much for
see
coming on.
you.
Yeah, and I'm interested to keep knowing, what's going on with you and your writing and all right. And for
I will keep sharing with you as,
yeah, I love reading your stuff.
things happen. Oh, you're so sweet.
All right, well, let's wrap it up and for our audience to continue to keep joining us on Adoptees in 3, Connecting Mind, Heart, and Action.